Right, well, seeing as we are under a amber weather warning for wind and rain here in South Wales, thought we'd have a look at what's actually happening in the night sky this evening. And if you get the opportunity to get some clear skies and look outside, then you'll notice down towards the south, around about 6 p.m. this evening, the star, quite bright star at magnitude 1.16, Fomalhaut. It's part of the constellation of Pisces Austrinus, which means the southern fish. The star is of interest because back in 2008 it was actually imaged optically, and we found a extra solar system there. So that's a solar system outside of our own 8 planets. And it's quite interesting again because in 2015 the one planet that was plainly obvious was named Dragon by the International Astronomical Union. So have a look out for it. You might get a bit lucky and see what's around there. It's quite a nice area of the sky actually, because once you've spotted Fomalhaut, then all you've got to do really is look straight up, and you'll come across a couple of planets in our own solar system. And just here you have Saturn. Saturn is lovely in a small telescope. You'll be able to see the bands on the surface if you get really clear conditions, but more obviously is the rings, and the rings actually stand out like a sore thumb, particularly in a much larger telescope. You'll also be able to pick up several of its moons, and you can actually see Titan just emerging there, which it's the largest of the Saturnian system. But you'll also notice quite uniquely at the moment is how thin the rings actually appear, and that's purely down to the fact that our orbits are slightly misaligned essentially. So when we look around the plane of the solar system, the planets can either sit above or below that line, and depending on our viewpoint or our position on that plane, we can actually see the rings open and close. And at the moment they are closing up very, very nicely until they will essentially disappear upon us and end up with a very thin line across the planet itself. But you can see the banding that I mentioned here on the planet. It's not as distinct as the planet Jupiter's, but you will be able to spot it in good conditions. You'll also notice that we have a couple of shadows appearing on Saturn, and they will be essentially eclipses on the surface caused by some of the minor satellites there. But then just above Saturn in the sky and slightly to its right, you'll notice we have the planet Neptune. Now Neptune is not the greatest of planets to look at. It looks like a little bluey coloured dot, in even the largest aperture telescopes. So don't get overexcited about that one, but it's worth having a look with a pair of binoculars. It's beyond visual magnitude, so you do need binoculars at least to discover it. But you can look at it in a small telescope and it gives you that kind of lovely colour to it. If you keep on going up, you come across this huge square in the sky as well. Now this is the square of Pegasus. So it's essentially half the body of the winged horse with its legs coming off here. There's the neck and head of the horse. But it's interesting because of this star here. This is a star called Alpheratz, and it's actually shared with the constellation here of Andromeda. And you can imagine Andromeda as kind of like a capital letter A on its side. So you've got the A there, and there's the bar going across. And it's a wonderful part of the sky because we have our closest galactic neighbour there. All you have to do is go from Alpheratz, count 1 pair of stars, 2 pair of stars, and then just draw a line through those 2 stars, go up roughly the same distance, and you'll start to see the majestic Andromeda galaxy appear. And you can see the distance there is roughly the same length between the 2 stars and up. But in a pair of binoculars, it'll look a little bit like this, not so pronounced perhaps, but it will have this kind of mistiness to it. You'll have this wonderful fuzzy core, And then in the telescope, you get to see a lot more detail. You do need to spend a little time before you start to see the bands, the dust lanes come through. But it's just patience with astronomy. The longer you're out looking at something, the more you will actually see. And then as the night progresses, as you can see, we've just slightly moved off the south there. You're going to have the Seven Sisters appear here. You've got Taurus the Bull, and then below Taurus, we get the wonderful winter constellation of Orion. And Orion has multiple wonderful things to look at. You've got his belt, you have his sword, you've got the star Betelgeuse, which is always in the news because apparently it's going to go supernova any minute. But that could be tonight, it could be in another million years. Who's really going to tell? And then in the sword itself, you have the wonderful Orion Nebula, and that's beautiful in a pair of binoculars actually. You can see a lot of detail within it. And then just above, on the Star Alnitak here, if you've got a larger aperture telescope, you'll start to bring out the nebulosity around it, and you'll see the Horsehead Nebula just in here and the Flame Nebula, which were quite nice. We've also got the Rosette Nebula in the constellation of Monoceros just to the side of it too. And then you have the planet Jupiter, which is just below the twins of Castor and Pollux in the sky. And this is all before the moon rises. You can just see the moon rising there. So if you get the opportunity to actually nip outside and have a look, then it's well worth doing so this evening. So hopefully guys, you learned a little bit there. If you've got any questions at all, just get in touch with us. We're more than happy to advise, particularly on telescope purchases at this time of year, as lots of you will be looking for gifts and such. And we've teamed up with First Light Optics, so anybody who does purchase an experience with us, we can give you a discount code then to go and get some money off telescopic equipment with the great guys at First Light Optics. So drop us a message or check out the website, and hopefully you'll enjoy the night sky with a little bit more knowledge to hand.